Hello, lovely people, and welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie, and this is Evolved Chit. It's my little corner of the world where I like to talk about spirituality, metaphysical stuff, universal laws, and psychology. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the core wound and what it is and how it's activated, and especially how it's activated on if you relate to a twin flames journey. But this information applies to anyone, whether you believe you're on a twin flames journey or not. Also, I'll share some tips on how to manage it and even heal it so it can help you better balance your energy and elevate your vibration and enhance your frequency. First, before I get started, I just want to say thanks for being here. I appreciate people's feedback and comments and the opportunity to connect with people in coaching sessions. It's been really awesome. So thanks for sharing with me. And I want to ask you, if you find my content helpful, I would appreciate if you give it a thumbs up and like my videos. Also, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any ideas for future videos, I'd love to hear from you in the comments section. And if I feel like I can provide a meaningful response to that or a meaningful video, I would be happy to record one in the future. Okay, so what is the core wound? So the core wound in terms of like a non-spiritual response, I guess you could say, is a deep like emotional or psychological pain that's rooted in past experiences, and is often linked to experiences we had in early childhood, linked to trauma and even karmic patterns too, if you believe in that, which I do. From a spiritual perspective, Leora, who was a twin flames coach and spiritual teacher, she said that the core wound is the place where the soul enters the body, and that core wound is what keeps us grounded in our 3D human reality. It represents unresolved fears, insecurities, limiting beliefs, things that are blocking personal growth and unconditional love. And from the twin flames perspective, the twin flame is mirroring the other twin's wounds right at them and highlighting areas where that person may need some healing. So how is it activated, on this twin flames journey? So from personal experiences and from just sharing at a very high level, a conversation I had with someone recently about this, most people report that their core wound is activated and they feel a deep, aching, like the psychological pain, something that feels physical, but it's almost like a ghost pain or something that you may feel in your energetic body or your pain body. So you could feel it in your energetic centers, like your chakras. So many people who have felt their core wound activated and it was activated by their twin flame, they claim to feel that core wound activation in either like their solar plexus chakra or their sacral chakra. It all depends. Myself, I experienced it in a few different chakras. Everything was, centralized to like my throat or my solar plexus or my sacral, and then later on it was my heart and my throat. So I found it to be really interesting as I could see where I was like transcending bullshit, my own bullshit, and seeing what was being reflected at me and what was keeping me in lower vibrational states. And so much of it was rooted in my trauma. My twin flame, and if you've listened to my story or read on my site, I've been on this journey for a while, and I had what I call a fake twin flame experience, and then I have what I believe is my twin flame, if we're using all those top 10 signs, and I've used astrology and numerology to try to validate it too, with some pretty interesting results. So what I do know is that this experience has shown me a lot about myself and helped me see some things where I was out of alignment with who I am and being my best self. I was operating in lower vibrational states. I had plenty of opportunities for emotional intelligence, like glow ups and grow ups. So I'm really grateful for this experience, for what it has given me, beyond just that of a relationship, it has shown me so much about myself and where I was acting in a lower vibrational state. And for me, it was triggering the core wound of abandonment, and also like unworthiness or fear of rejection. So it was mirroring at me these unhealed wounds, and it was forcing me to address them. And at first I wasn't addressing them. I was just kind of acknowledging it, but not really digging into it. So my fake twin flame experience did that. And even in the early part of, when I met my real twin flame, and then I was just like, wait a second, what have I been studying about? What am I doing? I know what I need to do. And once I started like just minding my business, being mindful of my energy, mindful of my thoughts, I could see it. I was like, this is not anything to do with him. It's just my shit. It's the way I'm responding to what's going on. So when I was doing that, we were caught up in this push-pull situation. And that was, the core wound definitely activated that. And there were periods of, like, I wouldn't say conflict, because we're not in, like, we don't approach it that way. Like, it's not like hard conflict, but it was like, respectful conflict, and also separation, which had us both in very introspective states. When we would come back together, we would talk about that, and we could see how much it was alike, our experiences. So even he had admitted, during those times, he was doing a lot of introspection about things as well, and had learned a lot about himself in the process. So it, at some point for myself, it forced me, because I was just so tired of dealing with it, it forced me to deal with unresolved pain. And because the core wound had become, that psychological pain had become absolutely unavoidable. And I've heard this from someone I was speaking with recently, and her core wound was activated in a very different way from mine. And it had to do with struggles in childhood that were based and grounded in physical abuse. And so by better understanding how she had to create an avatar and a persona to be able to survive that, she could see where she was still operating out of that mode, and how it informed so much of her life, and so many, like all of her relationships. And so this experience with her twin flame activated her core wound, and it triggered all of those awful things that happened to her in childhood. And she could see where it was even showing up in other relationships, where she would seek out that kind of and it wasn't necessarily always abuse, but that kind of interaction where she was not being like nurtured in that relationship. So she could see the patterns of how the physical abuse was in her childhood, and then how that showed up in her relationships throughout her life. And then her twin flame, he just like really blew it up. And but in a way that it really has allowed her to see like her pattern. And I can relate to that in terms of my own unique experiences with just my own trauma and everything. So it's interesting to see how these things come up, how we create these personas to be able to survive them, or what we tell ourselves, or what have you, and then how that informs our reality and kind of our operator's manual, until, if we are fortunate enough to get to the point where we are now, and having this awareness and being able to see that we're a mind, body, and soul, and that the soul is the observer, and that the mind is a computer and we can reprogram it, and the body is our vehicle, so we can do all sorts of things to take good care of our vehicle. So once you recognize that, it helps you see that you can look at things a little more objectively, even though that's really challenging. It doesn't diminish what happened to you. It doesn't diminish how you feel about what happened to you. But at some point, you need to say to yourself, is any of this productive? And that was the point that I got to. I was like, none of this is productive anymore. I'm staying stuck in a time that is irrelevant. I don't like what I'm doing, or I don't like how I'm responding to things, or I know I could be doing better with this, or I know I could be doing better with that. Like, I got to the point where, when I was triggered by all this twin flame stuff, and then in the throes of it with my twin flame, I was like, hold on, I'm not holding myself accountable. I'm, kind of acting out a little bit like a child. So, or like a wounded inner child, that is. So it was allowing me to see that. So then in terms of how we manage and heal the core wound, if you listen to my other content, then you know that I'm a big fan of practicing self-inquiry. And Leora talks about this in her ebook, and I'll have links to Leora's ebook, the resources for that. And she has an exercise towards the end of the ebook where she teaches you how to practice self-inquiry. And it's actually a very simple thing. It's very practical. So, but using self-inquiry, you can write down your emotions. You can journal them, or, write them type them up in a Word document or an app on your phone. And, it allows you to name the emotion, and then you can get to the root cause of what that wound is, especially if you have repeated patterns. I encourage you to take a look at a lot of your, most like poignant relationships, most important relationships that you had in your life, and see if you can see any patterns in behaviors or how you showed up or how others treated you, the other person treated you in that relationship. That is often a big indicator of, of what your trauma is like too. Are you a people pleaser, or, are you anxious, or do you feel like you have to control everything? So it allows you to get to the root of what that wound is, and helps you see, like, well, I'm afraid of being abandoned, so I do this because I don't want to be alone and I don't want people to leave me, or I don't think I'm worthy enough, so I do this because I want someone to see my value, and when I do that, blah blah blah. So it's very unique for each person, based on your experiences, based on how you respond to those things. So keep that in mind. It's not good to compare yourself to other people on this journey, because it is so special for you. Another thing that you can do to manage and heal this too is inner child healing. And I know for some people, I've shared this with some people and they're like, really? But I have to say, reconnecting with your inner child and learning how to self-soothe your inner child, it can really help you with some early, like, emotional childhood trauma stuff if you haven't resolved that. So I have learned how to do that. I studied about this stuff actually a long time ago, and I had used it to help me resolve a lot of things from my childhood. And then when these things had come back up again in a new way after my divorce, I was able to use these tools in, speaking to my inner child like a parent. Like, you want to be able to soothe them, but at the same time, it's like, there needs to be boundaries. So I could soothe my inner child when I felt like I was being irrational because of something that was going on or a situation. But I also had to be like a firm parent in, making me do something and maybe I didn't want to do because I was being cranky about it. So it's really helpful to be able to leverage that particular approach in a variety of ways, to be nurturing, but also to be encouraging and to get you off your butt and moving forward. Of course, another thing is using mindfulness and meditation. This is really important and something you can do very simply, and you don't have to pay any money or anything for it. You can just sit on your sofa or sit on your bed and be mindful of your thoughts. So if you practice, I talk about this in a couple of my last couple of videos. I talk about transcendental meditation and how sitting in stillness 2 times a day for about 10 to 20 minutes each. You can do it in the morning when you first wake up, and then you can do it towards the end of the afternoon, so it revitalizes you for the rest of the day. But you can use this as a time to just allow your thoughts to float, and you can be the observer of them. When I started practicing transcendental meditation, I love all this stuff, but I wasn't as aware about my inner workings and my energy as I am now. And I learned transcendental meditation about 10 years ago. So, but over the last couple of years, it has been hugely valuable, just insanely valuable, now that I understand these components and how they work together. So using a tool like transcendental meditation, you can sit in silence and for 10, 20 minutes in the morning, and you can just be using that time to be mindful of any thoughts that come up, and you want to encourage the good thoughts. So this could even be like if things are coming in that may be unhealthy or obsessive or repetitive, you can just allow them to float, and only just be mindful of them to see if they are recurring thoughts, because you want to be mindful of the recurring thoughts that come up and see, are they useful, are they productive, or are they lower vibrational thoughts, are they unhealthy thoughts, are they not true, is it a narrative you're just telling yourself? So you can do the same again at the end of your afternoon. I usually try to do it around between 3 and 4:30 in the afternoon, like somewhere in that window, 10 to 20 minutes. And it allows me to kind of, I've been through the majority of the work day, if it's a working day, and it allows me to work through anything that may have come up during the work day, so I can sort it, organize it, and move forward and move on. So I don't carry it with me and have it create any unnecessary baggage. So again, meditation is a really useful tool, because people say, well, I can't not stop thinking. And the thing with meditation is that it's not necessarily about stopping thinking. It's just being mindful of your thoughts, and then being mindful of which thoughts you want to entertain. And then of the thoughts that you don't want to entertain, are there unhealthy, repetitive thoughts that you need to get to a root cause and understand, why the hell am I having these thoughts? So, and that usually and often will point to your core wound. So, of course, there are other things that you can do, like using energy work. So if you're somebody into Reiki, or getting your chakras balanced, or other sort of breath work, pranayama, there's a lot of resources out there for that. For me, that was helpful in terms of just being able to understand my energetic centers. I am a Reiki master. I accomplished that back in 2003. So I understood a lot about energy and connecting to my energy centers and using them as an early warning device. And then also, conversely, not just being aware of like the psychological pain I was feeling, I would kind of, when I was in a higher vibrational state, I would focus on healing those chakras and balancing them out. So if I was feeling something a lot in my solar plexus, when I was doing meditations or like specific, like, I guess I would call it like a healing session, I would project good energy into that particular center, or I would listen to guided meditations that would focus on balancing chakras. So those tools can be really helpful. And same with breath work, breathing into that chakra, breathing into that space to, infuse good energy into it, take out the bad energy and dispel it. Like, there's a lot that you can do ritualistically too that can help you move through challenging psychological things. And of course, I'm a big fan of using psychology. If you've listened to my other content, I love the personal development school and the attachment style quiz. So there's a lot of content out there about attachment style theory. And I have to tell you, when I had consumed a lot of stuff about twin flames, but it was that content that really helped me put it all together. I need to look at stuff logically, like I have to intellectualize it. And when I was reading about attachment styles, after I was just like really struggling with balancing that inner world and this and that, when I happened upon the attachment style quiz and the content on the personal development school, it pulled it all together for me. It helped me see how the way in which I connected to people, it helped me see how it fueled my inner world. And then from there, I could use tools like self-inquiry, all the stuff I just listed, and in addition to things like therapy or coaching or what have you, and practicing even gratitude. I practice Ho'oponopono. I use it as an affirmation actually when I'm feeling low vibe. But understanding my attachment style was hugely helpful because it gave me such insight to what my inner workings are, what was going on in my inner world. And now my focus is secure attachment. And it's not always perfect. I slip, I have my challenges, I have to be mindful. I am human, I'm dealing with 50 years of stuff. And even though I've been really aware of this and practicing it over the last few years pretty consistently, it's still something I work at. But in a way that it's light years from where I was. So it's repetition. It's showing up for yourself. It's practicing these things. It's being that parent that you needed, that caregiver that you needed in your most challenging times of your life. This is when you stand up and you become your own hero. So you are here to save you. And now that you know these things about the core wound, now that you understand how your twin flame could, experience triggered that, it helps you see it helps you see now what you can do to move forward in making decisions about how you want to manage that pain, and how you want to approach healing it. So I hope this was helpful. I know that, when we're on this like spiritual path and we're seeking out content and all this information, that it can feel overwhelming and confusing. So if you have any questions about this content, please don't hesitate to drop comments in the section of the video. Also, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, I offer 30 and 60-minute coaching sessions, and I currently have 40% off coaching and through the end of the year. And you'll see all that information on my website, evolvedchit.com, and go to the Get Started page. When you click through for the 30 and 60-minute coaching session, you'll see the details there on how to enter that at your checkout. And you can schedule an appointment right through my site. So I try to make that really easy. But it's one of those things, like now that you know that you have this, that you're managing like this core wound and what this is all stirred up, you can make a choice. How do you want to respond to that energy? And it's one of the reasons why I encourage people to tune out of certain content, especially content that may keep you triggered. And only you can determine what's going to trigger you. So myself and other people I've talked to, had to tap out of like certain twin flames content or horoscope content or things like that. But anything that was, keeping me stuck in lower vibration or projecting or potentially triggered because I was creating an expectation or an assumption, I had to decide. I had to choose, even though it was it could be a quick hit or a quick fix. I want to have this experience, so let me go listen to this oracle reading, and then I would find myself doing this cycle all over again. So just to illustrate like how things can keep us stuck and in lower vibrational states. So you need to determine what is keeping you in a low vibe. Is what you are doing right now in your life helping you achieve a higher vibrational state? And if the answer to that is no, then you need to decide what are you going to do to get there. And this is when using tools like developing your self-concept and your self-care rituals come into play. So I have a free ebook on my website. Go to the Get Started page, and it's called The Mindset Reset. So I am actually about to post a new one probably before the end of the year. So it's going to be free, still a little more comprehensive, and sharing more things that I've learned since then. So, and this is where it starts, whether you're on a spiritual journey or a twin flames journey, it doesn't matter. It begins with your self-concept. It starts with how you define yourself, who you are today. And then when things come up that are out of alignment with your self-concept, then you can choose. And a lot of that inner world stuff that's going on and triggering the pain body and the core wound and everything, a lot of it's old stuff that doesn't serve you. And that's what this has come in to show you. And if you believe in the twin flames theory, then you believe that this is a soul agreement, that you have a shared soul with this other person that you're having, a shared experience with. So it is said that twin flames agree at a soul level to trigger these wounds for mutual growth and ascension. So if you want to look at it that way in terms of like practicality, that's the kind of stuff that was helpful for me, because it is literally a catalyst for your transformation. So it's why it's so intense. It's accelerating your personal healing and your spiritual evolution. So I guess, it would be nice if it was a lot softer and fluffier, but I think for most people it's challenging. So that's why I'm here, because I want to share with you the stuff that I've learned that has been helpful for me. And I wish it was magical. I really do. I wish you could just push a button and it would all go away. And in a way you can, because that button is changing your mindset. But really, it is very practical. Practicing self-inquiry, connecting to that core wound, connecting to your emotions, seeing where they may be rooted, seeing how they're connected to that feeling, and what's being triggered in you. Because all this is showing you is that you are the magic. And further, it's showing us where maybe we have gotten lost along the way, and it's trying to help us get back onto that road, our ascension path. So a couple of other things to consider as well, because I always like to add other random stuff in these videos. So I was thinking about core wounds in terms of karmic debt. Meaning, like, if you believe that you are an energetic being, then perhaps you believe in karma and reincarnation. So I do. And I find it interesting to research this and better understand it. But it got me thinking about our astrological aspects and how we may be able to find out what kind of karma that we have come in with from our most recent life. If you've listened to my other content, then you know that I find the North Node and the South Node aspects in our astrological charts to be very helpful. And when I was thinking about it in terms of the core wound, I was thinking about my specific South Node aspect. And I can see in many ways, now that I know what that aspect is quite well, I could see how that aspect has showed up in my life in a negative way and not in a helpful or a productive way. Now, you could probably say that of just about anything, but being able to use a tool like astrology, especially if it has some resonance for you and it's meaningful and it could be helpful, can really be a game changer and help you get ahead faster. So I highly recommend learning more about your astrological chart. You got to go beyond Mercury retrograde. You got to go beyond your sun, your moon, even your rising. Like, you got to dig into Saturn and your North Node and South Node. To me, those have been the most helpful aspects I have ever gleaned from my astrological chart. And I started learning about astrology when I was 9 years old. So for me, over the last few years, that content has been incredibly helpful, and it is what I have paid attention to in spite of the shit show that goes on all the time with astrology, all the retrogrades, all of this, all of that. Staying focused on those aspects and how, no matter what's going on in the world, how I'm learning my lessons, how I'm, transcending the bullshit and remaining on my path to ascension. So that's why this journey is, it's very unique for every person. It's why you can't compare what you're doing to anyone else, even if you are also, a bunch of people on a twin flames journey. You can, commiserate, but you can't, compare yourself because it's unique for you. So learn more about your astrological chart. Of course, as always, in the description and in the pinned comment, check out those resources. Most of them are free, and many of them that I share, they're either free or they're pretty cost effective, pretty affordable, and you get good content for what you pay. So check those things out. If you do know your time of birth and your location, that is really helpful because it really helps you pinpoint more specifically. So if you can, check out your birth certificate, call your mom, so learn more about that so you can help navigate perhaps some energetic stuff that you may have brought with you into this life, and learn more about your North Node so you can better align with your North Star and what you may feel is like your mission in this life. And also learn more about your Saturn placement, because Saturn in astrology is the stern teacher, and in cycles every, I think, 27, 28 years. So so depending on where you are in your life, you're going through these Saturn cycles, and they're like a level up. It's, again, like the teacher, the lessons. And there's a lot of opportunity to learn more about yourself and what you're here to do and experience by understanding your Saturn placement as well. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful.
And just a reminder that you are loved, you are amazing, you are awesome, you are necessary, and you are really freaking needed right now. So step into your power. And until next time, I'm sending you lots of love and good vibes for your journey.